What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and joined with me is the captain, maybe powerless tonight, Captain Mr. Andy Cole.
Yeah, we're getting ready for a home inspection here. We're going to be listing our house on the market here shortly, and we're just doing some final things, switching out some switches, and the
Switching
one
out
with
some switches.
the one is like a 3-panel switch, and it's giving us some fits, and we had it together, and then we put it all on the wall, and then one of the things didn't work, and we're not sure why. So my dad is currently tearing it back apart, but the breaker that room is on does not affect my office. So yeah, and then that's why there's a bag sitting right here. This is stuff going to Goodwill. Like the house is literally being packed as we speak. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So for folks, a little precursor. Okay, there's a couple precursors for tonight, and which is a total sidebar that we appreciate our guest patience with Andy and I. It's been a heck of a day. So for Andy, he might lose power tonight. So if Andy just automatically leaves the stream, that is why.
Yeah.
And I am actually down in New Orleans. I'm not in Buffalo right now.
Hotel Wi-Fi.
Hotel Wi-Fi, hotel microphone. I'm using the Mac microphone, which is probably why my audio sucks for our MP3 folks. So I apologize. Just stick with me for actually probably it's gonna be 2 episodes because for Friday's episode, which is actually gonna be intriguing. That is going to be Mr. Drew Gregory, our very good buddy. If folks haven't heard, he originally got DQ'd from the Pickwick Bassmaster Kayak event. He appealed it and then won the appeal, so he's continuing to be. He won that event and is Angler of the Year for the Bassmaster Kayak Series. So he won that appeal, proved his case. He's always been a super transparent guy. So we're going to get him on that show to talk about it. And that'll be Friday's episode. But today has been hectic, Andy. And again, we appreciate our guest, Mr. Cole Sands, who just qualified for the Bassmaster Elite Series, with being patient with us for today, because I was traveling all day today. Andy was fun fishing, but then also dealing with his house.
Yeah.
So we appreciate our guests being very patient with us as it's been hectic. We appreciate everybody joining the show.
Yeah.
But you and I had a fun weekend, Andy.
Oh my gosh, what a day. You know what really makes me sick about this last 3 days on Lake Erie is I have not put a 6-pounder in the boat, and I can count on my hand how many 6-pounders have been caught around me. My cat just jumped out of the window behind me. But yeah, I have my windows open. It's 80 degrees in Buffalo today. It's like unreasonably warm. So Bailey flew south and blew a bunch of air up here. But yeah, in the last 3 days, I know of like 10 6-pounders caught in Erie, and I saw 7 of them caught in the last 2 days next to me. And I can't catch a 6-pounder. Just 5 3/4, like endless amounts of 5 3/4. It's getting sick.
We literally had a bag, guys, on Sunday. Andy and I had a little over 28 pounds. Every single fish. Our smallest fish was 5'10". Yeah. Our biggest fish was 5'12". Just put that in perspective. That is it's great. It looks great on paper, but it was so frustrating. It wasn't even fun. Like, this one's got to be 6 pounds. Puts it on the scale. No, 5'10". I think Andy's scale maxes out at 5'12".
It does not, because I had one today go to 5'13". So it does not max out at 5'12".
Yes. You're putting weights in fish.
Yes. Small little drop shot weights.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know about you, Andy, but I'm excited for today's episode. So let's bring him on here.
Yeah.
Mr. Cole Sands, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are y'all doing?
Doing good. We talked a little bit offline that we have a mutual friend, Mr. Caleb Bell, who's been on this show quite a few times, and he keeps saying, he goes, guys, you got to get my friend Cole Sands on here. And I know we reached out to you a while ago. We tried to get a show set up, couldn't find the time because you've been grinding this past year on the Bassmaster Opens, and for good reason, because, dude, you're Bassmaster Elite Series bound. Congrats.
Yeah, man, thank you. It's been a long season, and I've worked extremely hard, and had some things go my way this year for sure. But, man, I got there. I'm in, and it's been a lifelong dream of mine.
How is it feeling right now? Like, has it set in yet? Like, does it feel real? or is it like you're already getting prepped, like no time to waste to start getting ready for next year?
Yeah, so just kind of giving you a little bit of a precursor going into this last tournament. I knew I had a decent first day, and I knew going into the second day, if I caught a limit, that I was going to make it. And like in the first 30 minutes, I had 5 fish in the boat. And so I tried not to let it sink in until I got weighed in and everything. And it really hit me once I got off stage. I got in my truck, started calling my parents, my girlfriend, people, who mean a lot to me. And that's when it just really hit. And it was just kind of an accumulation of all the hard work, the people who have poured in so much to me, made so many sacrifices, and it all kind of hit me all at once. And I might have cried in my truck for 2 hours straight. I can't confirm or deny that, but no, it's sunk in.
It's okay.
After I got weighed in, and I knew I made it. And then as far as after that goes, on my way home, I had a transmission go out, so it took me like 4 days. I just got home yesterday, and
oh my god!
And then as soon as I got here, I'm scrambling like crazy, trying to get some sponsors together and trying to get the money raised because there's stuff due pretty quick, but it's all kind of a combination of everything all at once.
Dude, holy crap, that's a roller coaster of emotions right there. But I will say, I respect the hell out of the guys that admit, like yourself, that you bawled your eyes out in your truck, because honestly, that just speaks to the amount of passion or emotion that you're devoting to something. Like you're chasing your dream, and you've made it, and obviously that dream's going to change to a blue trophy or a classic and whichever. But like, dude, you accomplished exactly what you set out to do, and it's not exactly an easy one. It's pretty damn hard. It's grueling, and it literally it's a year long. Like that is a long emotional window. So props to you, dude. I mean, I wouldn't be ashamed at all to say that you bawled your eyes out in your truck. I do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And even before that, I've made so many decisions in my life. And other people around me have had to make sacrifices, and I've had to make sacrifices of my own time. And there's been steps in my life, going from high school fishing to college fishing. And I stayed 2 extra years in college to get my master's degree, but maybe to also get a little bit more experience as well. And then went to the Open. So I really took a step-by-step approach, trying to make it to the Elite Series. So it's not just like I decided to fish the Opens one year and made it. It's been years and years. And it kind of all hit me all at once I finally made it.
Was this your first? No, last year? Was last year your first Open season?
Last year I fished the Southerns because I was still finishing up my master's degree, and I almost made it last year. I bombed the first tournament at the Harris chain, and you can't come back from a bomb if you're just fishing one division. I had 2 other really good finishes. I had a 12th and a 6th. So I just, I missed that one. But this year I fished all 9 of them. It was my first year fishing all 9, and it definitely played to my favor doing that because I was able to just kind of stay consistent. And I had one bad tournament, the one I shouldn't have done bad at. It was at Cherokee, kind of one of my home lakes. But besides that, I was pretty blessed to do good in the rest of them and make it.
Isn't that a weird trend? The lake you expect to do the best at is typically the one you do the worst at. Unless you're Lee Livesey and you win every single time it's on your home lake, but
yeah, that's you hear about home lake curse, and usually, I had a lot of success throughout college fishing on Chickamauga, which is my home lake, and I never really had that with that Cherokee one. Man, my travel partners, they're actually like really good at Cherokee. A lot better than I am, and all of us had a terrible practice and a pretty bad tournament, so it's just kind of a weird week for Cherokee. People caught them everywhere they're not supposed to catch them, and we definitely missed the boat on that one.
And do you remember when we had Mike Huff on the show and he asked us to bring down a live well full of gobies to Cherokee?
Yes.
Do you think that would benefit Cherokee Lake if it had a whole thing of gobies in it?
I think it would. That's full of so many smallmouth, and they used to get really, really fat like 7-8 years ago when we had some really cold winters. But I think you got some gobies in there. They might get really fat again.
Thank you. That'd be interesting. I think we'll look to avoid the goby thing for now. But
yeah, it's kind of funny. Like some of my friends down like at Alabama and stuff are always like, I wonder what gobies would do to spots. Like if spots knew how to eat a goby, like what would happen?
you wouldn't have schoolers anymore. I mean, think about what it did to Oneida. Oneida's used to be the biggest schooling lake in New York. You just a summer bite, he's following birds, and now it's everyone's dragging because the big girls are all eating gobies.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, it'd take probably 8 to 10 years for it really to settle in, though, honestly. So,
well, either way, probably not going to happen. I don't anticipate gobies getting in the chair.
You never know.
No, but so we're 10 minutes into this deal, and I have neglected to tell you or ask you the question I told you we were going to ask you to start this thing off. Was like, dude, where did your bass fishing dream stem from? Where did it start? Who got you into it? We'd love to kind of hear the story of how you got into the sport of bass fishing.
Yeah, so my story is probably a little bit different than some, but so I'm originally from Fairbanks, Alaska. That's something a lot of people don't know about me. But
salmon
growing
fishing
up there, I mean, my dad had me in the woods when I was 3 years old. I mean, we were bear hunting and fishing and you name it from the time I was seriously 3. And so I fell in love with outdoors, through him taking me and just there's not bass up there, but there's salmon, there's pike, several saltwater fish as well. And so that's kind of how I fell in love with it. And then when I was, I guess, 10 years old or so, we moved to Tennessee and we moved to a subdivision and I absolutely hated it. And just I couldn't go outside and shoot stuff or, couldn't do a whole lot. But then somebody told us about a junior bass club they had. And I didn't know nothing about bass fishing, but it was when people in the older, there's an older bass club, they would take out the youth, maybe once a month. They'd have little tournaments. And so that sounds pretty cool. So I joined that. And the first year I blanked every single tournament. I had no idea what I was doing. I went home and I'd cry after every tournament, because I was a competitive kid growing up. I played every sport. I mean, you name it, I played it growing up. And so I got tired of losing. And so I started reading everything and just, had a couple really key mentors along the way that took me under their wing and taught me a lot and just watched and consumed as much as I possibly could. And just, kind of gradually got better. And then in high school, I got a small aluminum boat. My parents got that for me, and I was able to spend time on the water. And then in college, I went to Bryan College, which is at Dayton, Tennessee, which is right next to Lake Chickamauga. I mean, it's seriously like 30 seconds away. So I knew I'd have a ton of time to really get good at this lake. And so something I did when I went out, I made myself fish new water every single time. Even if I knew I could go somewhere and really catch them, if I was just going out, practicing or whatever, I made sure to fish new water. And what that did is now, looking back, after doing that for 4 years, I'm able to look back and say, hey, if I'm catching them off points in 5 to 10 foot of water with grass, I got 20 other places I can go run. So that's kind of my story, and just kind of worked my way up through high school fishing, and got pretty fortunate to get a college scholarship to Bryan. And but I would say ever since I was probably 3 years old, I loved fishing. And then really when I got involved with bass fishing, that 11 or 12-year-old range, that's when I started watching Bassmaster on TV. And that's probably when the dream came. If I can do that, if I can make the Elite Series, that's my dream job. So kind of set, stepping stones in my way after that and try to kind of work my way up. And, thankfully I'm here now.
Are you the first Alaskan-born Elite Series pro?
There's a good chance. I mean, probably.
I'm going to say Johnny Moore right now and ask if they've even thought.
You should. I know there was a guy back in 2006 or 2007 that I know lived in Alaska for a little bit, but I don't know if he was Alaskan-born. And he was basically
from Alaska, was he?
No, Schwenkbeck is from New York, but he goes to Alaska every year. There was another guy, and he did really well at Oneida the one year. I just don't remember his name. Just catch him out of popper.
All right, well, we're texting Ron Dog and see if he can confirm this fact. Because if you do, that's pretty cool, dude. Because like last year, Matty Wong was like the first born and raised Hawaiian, and first Alaskan. That'd be a pretty cool label.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty cool, especially because there's no bass in Alaska. So I guess it'd be pretty unique.
Dude, that's actually a really cool story. I love that. Which actually, so we have a question here from one of our viewers. And it ties in kind of what I was going to ask, being from Alaska is like, what kind of style of fishing did you pick up? Like, what would you classify yourself as an angler?
Man, right now, I think I consider myself a pretty versatile angler. And I think at this day and age, there's no reason not to be. I mean, like, you'd hear 20, 30 years ago, pros would tell you, hey, you need to get good at one thing, let's say flipping or, throwing a crankbait or something like that. And, really excel at that and kind of make that your primary weapon. But man, with the amount of content and media we have nowadays, and the learning curve is so much smaller than it used to be. I feel like I'm just as comfortable throwing a drop shot with 6-pound line as I am throwing a frog with 65-pound braid. And I think if you look back at each of my opens this year, my versatility would be reflected by that. I mean, at this last tournament, I caught him on a drop shot with 8-pound line. I caught him on a big plug, and I caught him punching and frogging. I mean, it's just, I think to compete nowadays, especially in the opens, fishing the different lakes and the variety of lakes that you do, I think you really have to be good at everything, or at least, pretty decent at everything. So if I had a preference, I'd probably, prefer to power fish, throw winding baits, throw big stuff, throw a big line, but I feel just as comfortable finesse fishing if I need to.
I'd say that's a pretty good response in terms of when you can't depict which one you are. I feel like that's a pretty good trait to have. Like, there's certain people you slap a label on, like, yeah, that guy's a shallow guy, that guy's an offshore guy. Like, when you can't decide, I feel like that's a good thing to have going for you.
Jack of all trades in bass fishing is a very good trait.
Yeah. If you look at some of the best right now, like Paul and Nick or Wheeler, you can't really put them in one category, I don't think, because they are just they're that good at everything. And that's kind of what I'm trying to go after is look at who's the best in the sport right now, and they're pretty good at everything. So that's what I need to work at. If I'm lacking in anything, that's something I definitely need to work on.
I mean, look at their resume. No. It's all different. You guys hear me okay?
You're good now. So you're saying when it comes to their resume, they all look, and then you kind of cut out. So what was your?
I was just saying they're all pretty proficient, in finesse fishing and power fishing. So that's something. If I'm lacking anywhere, there's no excuse nowadays. I have the time in my hands, and I have enough contacts, and there's enough media out there that I should be able to pick it up and get better at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's fire off some viewer questions before we start really diving into this past open season. We have one from Tony Green asking if you have a travel partner set up for next year.
I don't yet, but there's definitely a couple guys I fished against in college. One I fished with, Jacob Fouts. Y'all probably know him. We actually went to the same high school together. So this will probably be another stat for Bassmaster. I don't know if there's ever been 2 Elite Series guys who went to the same high school. So he'd definitely be an option, and he's already got a travel group. So if you don't want to, maybe some of the other people that qualified this year, they all seem like a pretty good group of guys. So I'll definitely be down to travel with them, but I don't have anybody set in stone yet.
So you went to the same high school. He was in Ohio, right?
I don't know why everybody says like he learned how to fish in Ohio and he came from Ohio. He moved to Tennessee when he was like 12. So he's been in Tennessee just about as long as I have. So that's what everybody says, but he's been here for a while.
I'm reporting your stats to Ronnie Moore so he can freshen up his game for the live group.
Love it.
So one thing I followed along a lot, I mean, you're the reason why I bought some Yozuri traps for Chickamauga. I know you're a Yozuri guy, and we have another question here: is favorite type of lure? Like, if you had to fall back on one bait, I mean, what are you going to?
That's a tough one. I think you got to put it into two different categories. As far as hard baits go, that one you just mentioned, that Yozuri Rattling Vibe is, I mean, I've used every lipless crankbait on the market. That one right there seems to outcatch them day in and day out. I've caught them so good across the country on that bait. So that would probably be my hard bait. And then as far as soft baits go, drop shot. Just, a little 6-inch finesse worm. And, I'll vary color a little bit, but man, a drop shot really carried me through the season, a lot of tournaments.
Yeah. Would you say that it carried you for the open season this past year?
Oh, absolutely. I think Oneida, I definitely weighed in several on it. Rayburn, I weighed in several. Hartwell, I weighed in every single fish on a drop shot. And then them earlier tournaments, more of them springtime tournaments were when that Rattling Vibe played a little bit more, like the Kissimmee tournament. I came in 10th there. That was one of the baits in my arsenal. Same way at the James River. More of that pre-spawn deal is when that Rattling Vibe really shines.
Yeah, I remember our buddy Caleb telling me I had to get my hands on some because he said that's the real deal. Especially with like Chickamauga pressured bass, they choke on a Yozuri, is what he was saying. But we have another question here from Michael asking what your degree was in. You mentioned you were staying to get your master's. What is that in?
Marketing.
Marketing, smart man. Yep. All right, dude. Let's start diving into, guys. We can keep these questions rolling. I promise we'll get to all your questions for Cole here. But dude, let's dive into the open season. Kind of take us through. You don't have to give like a full synopsis on every event, but kind of walk us through your season from like from a highs to lows. Where you thought you did really well, where you thought you didn't do as well. Maybe some things you learned. Just kind of give us a recap, on your open season.
Yeah. So we started off the year at the Kissimmee Channel Lakes, and we got there during like a terrible cold front. It was like, 30 degrees for like 3 days straight in Florida, which is not good. And, you want to start the year off well with a good finish. And I was staying in a house with maybe 5 or 6 guys, and between all of us, we might have caught like 8 or 9 fish in practice. So that was one I was definitely pretty worried about. But pulled up to a spot the first day of the tournament where I caught 2 12-inchers off of in practice. And I pulled up there, and within 30 minutes, I put 22 pounds in the boat. And it was just a huge shock. I came in, I was sitting in second after day one, and I ended up finishing the event in 10th. So that was just getting that momentum out of the gate was a giant, boost to the season. And, really made me believe, hey, this could be my year. Yeah. Which we followed that up with the Cherokee tournament, which was my worst tournament of the year, where I finished 120th. So that was kind of a bust. And that was one where I realized if I'm going to make it, I'm really going to have to put my head down and really grind the rest of the year and finish strong. From there, we went to the James River, had a mediocre finish there, came in 76. Was actually on them really good, but had a fog delay on day 2, and I was making like a 2-hour run. And ended up just not having enough time with the changing tides. Caught a limit, but I didn't have time to run my big fish stuff on the right tide. But I had a decent tournament, and then kind of really got back on track. Our 4th event of the year was Ross Barnett. I was fishing a heavily pressured area, and just you had to mentally stay in it. I was in the same area Lee Livesay won out of, and like 6 other people in the top 10 came out of, and it was just this huge community hole flat. And I seriously had one little area to myself, and I had to make the same cast the first day, all day for 8 hours. And and I only got 6 keeper bites the first day, and I only landed 5 of them. So that was definitely just a mentally, challenging tournament to stay in it, but made some really good adjustments. The second and third day, caught them on a frog and had a great 4th place finish there. From there, we went to Oneida, which was our 5th stop. And I guess that's up in y'all's neck of the woods. And that's a really fun lake. I had a phenomenal practice for that one. I got on a deal finding bare spots with bluegill beds, and I was catching largemouth. Pretty good largemouth too. You'd catch some smallmouth too mixed in, but that deal went away before the tournament. And ended up having a great first day. I had like right at 17 pounds, left and biting because I thought I'd be doing a lot better than it actually ended up doing.
It's surprising how good that tournament was.
It really was. And I was killing them punching. Like I caught a 4-pound largemouth and several 3-pounders and punching milfoil, and then had a popper deal going with smallmouth on bare spots. So I had a good first day. I lost 2 big ones the first day, like 2 4-pounders that would have really had me up there. And then the second day, my punch and bite completely died, and I had to really scramble and just kind of junk fish my way up to a limit. Lost 3 freaking giant smallmouth on a popper that second day.
Treble hooks and smallmouth.
Going on, they'd come up and get the back of the popper and take it down. You'd have like 4 cranks, and I mean big 4 and 5 pound smallmouth, and they'd come off. And definitely had the opportunities there to probably top 10 that tournament, but I'm sure everybody did fishing for smallmouth. You're just not going to land all of them. But it still had a good 58th place finish. And then we kind of transitioned to the fall swing. And that's when I really felt like I, really grinded the last 4 events out and made it, because we went to the Chesapeake Bay and it was extremely tough. Nobody was really catching them. I got in one area, I saw some fish blowing up and kind of had to grind out the tournament in that area. Had a tough first day, but a really good second day. Caught them there, frogging and flipping. Caught a few on a skinny dipper, just fishing reeds, fishing grass. Caught a few on a really light Cinco. Just junk fishing 101, which I feel like is key in those fall transition times. You just kind of have to fish the moment and make good decisions. And from there, we went to the Red River. And the Red River is one that, I was kind of hanging in that 6th or 7th spot in the AOI race. And in the Red River going into it, I knew that was going to be a place a lot of people are going to fall, because that place is a grinder type event. And I finished that one at 47th, had the opportunities there to do a lot better. I had a few key fish come off the first day and the second day, but that's going to happen. But I was catching them there. I got on a really unique deal, fishing brush piles with a drop shot, and then fishing laydowns. But I was fishing laydowns on probably the ugliest banks you could find. And you wouldn't even know the laydowns were there unless you got up close to the bank and you used Panoptics. And the second day was probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I was going down a bank, and I think I had 4 keepers with like 30 minutes left before I had to lock back through. And I could not get my 5th keeper. And then something told me just to turn around, make a cast behind me, and hit that laydown from a different angle. And I just fished this laydown for 5 minutes, and I turn around, hit it from a different angle, and I immediately catch 3 fish out of one tree. And I was like, that's weird. And then the next 10 laydowns I fish, I catch 1 to 4 fish out of every one of them, thrown back at an angle that didn't really make any sense, especially with the way the current was hitting it. But ended up having a good tournament there, just barely missed a check, but good points. And then I finished the year really strong with my last 2. The second to last one was at Hartwell. Spotted bass, caught them all using Panoptics, throwing a drop shot on their heads, and came at 20th there. And then Rayburn had a really cool deal going. I had a deep deal first thing in the morning where I caught him on a drop shot, and then a hardcore 7+ crankbait, which is just a big like 25 or 30 foot diving plug. And then later in the day, as the sun warmed up the grass, I transitioned, went punching and frogging and cold, and waded some of my bigger fish that way, and walked away from there with an 18th place finish. So overall, it was a great year. I had 2 top 10s, and I think I had two 20th place finishes and 18th, and then a few times just out of the check range, and got the job done. So it was a pretty cool year.
It is insane how consistent you have to be to make the elites to the opens.
Yeah, no, you really do. And there's so many good anglers in it now. And one thing too, going forward into the Elite Series, I feel like I'm not going to be too starstruck, just because in these opens, you look around you, man, half the Elite Series guys are fishing them anyways. So, that's one thing. I think it's almost good, because, going into it, I realize I can compete with these guys. It's definitely going to be a little bit different competing against, all 95 or 98 of the best. But it is cool to know that, I have been competing against these guys all year already, a lot of them.
Yeah, that definitely is an advantage going into an Elite Series season, is one, being able to acknowledge that, because I think some people, which is good, they go and fish, but I feel like from a mental standpoint, once you hit the Elite Series, you see some rookies that kind of start off not as good, but they pick it up through the season. I don't think they probably take that bigger platform, seeing all these big names launching with them, and it might hit them from a mental standpoint. Whereas, like, if you acknowledge that you're already fishing against these guys, I think that might help you going into your first season, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, I think also fishing in college and just getting a number of tournaments under your belt, it kind of, once you get to a certain point, I feel like your nerves are a lot more calm and, used to fishing tournaments in college my freshman and sophomore year. I'd be, pretty nervous before these tournaments will start and, pretty worried. But, at this point, I feel like I've got enough experience under my belt and enough confidence that, it's just another day fishing and you just got to go out there and catch them. And, I think that's definitely going to be an advantage for me going into the Elite Series.
Now, to add in a disadvantage, now I hope you don't take this like the wrong way or anything. How are you going to transition from being able to practice for like a week or two to the 2.5 or 3 day practice period from the Opens into the Elite Series? How do you think you will fare being able to break down a lake in such a short amount of time?
I actually really like it. And I like the change they made to the Opens next year as well, where there is an off limits, because I was never one of those people who could, get down there like a week or two early, like a lot of people did. I think the most practice I got this year for any event was my last two, which I spent 5 days, just because I knew, I have a really good shot of making it. But typically, I feel like if I have 3 days anywhere, I feel like I should have enough clues to at least, go do something in the tournament. Now, it might not be the right thing, but it's the same playing field for everybody. In college, especially, we never got any practice time. It seemed like we'd have maybe a day. So I'm kind of used to that from there. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be a little different not getting, 4 or 5 days, but it's the same playing field for everybody. So I'll just have to get good at finding fish quick and hopefully have some success.
Well, and on like another note on that, you mentioned earlier that you had a terrible practice at the Kissimmee chain, right? And you started on a spot that had 2 12-inchers that you caught in practice. Like, take a step back to that tournament real fast. And my question is, what made you decide to start on that spot where you caught the 22 pounds on the first day?
I think the answer to that was just desperation.
Oh boy.
It was actually the second spot I hit. I started at one place close to the boat ramp. Well, they were both close, but I started at one place a little bit closer to the boat ramp and caught a 3-pounder off it, which was better than I'd done all practice pretty much. And I was leaving there to go to a place I thought I could catch a limit for about 7 pounds. And I looked over and there was nobody on that one spot where I caught 2 12-inchers. And I was like, you know what? I'll pull in there for a second, and maybe some females moved up, and I pulled in there, and it was probably one of the, if not the best 20, 30 minutes of fishing I've ever had.
Yeah, and that speaks volumes, right? Like, the biggest thing in fishing is to always trust your gut and to fish off of instincts, and turn the wheel and stop there is a bold move. And if you continue doing that, I could see you having a lot of success. So good job. That's awesome.
Thank you.
What are there any events on the schedule? I know there's no Tennessee River events next year. So what events on the schedule are you looking forward to most?
Looking at the schedule, I really don't have a whole lot of experience on any of them besides Seminole. I have fished Seminole through college. And that's probably the one I'm looking forward to the most, just because I have some experience there, and I know it sets up a lot like kind of like Gunnersville does and Chickamauga and some other lakes I've fished, mainly because of the abundance of hydrilla. It's a grass lake. The fish are going to set up, and I feel like it'll still be a little bit early for the spawn, maybe. So I'm hoping it's kind of a pre-spawn deal when I can take a rattling vibe and a chatterbait and just kind of hit some staging areas. I feel like that'll be the one I'm most comfortable at. Now, with that being said, looking at the Opens year this year and whatnot, it seems like the tournaments I thought I was going to do good at, I did bad at, and vice versa. So I don't know. I look forward to the Northern Swing. That's going to be a big challenge for me. It's going to be a huge learning curve. But I think that's going to be one I'm going to kind of have to sink or swim. And I'll just look forward to having that experience and getting up there and doing something a little bit different. You know, I feel like I'm up for the challenge, and that should be a couple fun events.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I think the schedule next year is pretty decent in terms of one, just like fun and more unique events in terms of like Murray they haven't been to in a while, and it's at Murray at the right time. That's going to be a lot of fun. And obviously, Northern events are always fun because our fish are dumb. So you guys love coming up here and catching.
Oh, they're so dumb at times.
Yeah. So you mentioned how, the drop shot got you through. I mean, beyond just you, but I think universally the drop shot catches them absolutely everywhere. You hear so many guys say that the drop shot is always on their deck, yada yada. Like, it's a very effective bait regardless of the species, regardless of location. But beyond that, did you have any kind of confidence baits or any baits that kind of played a key role for you this past season?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I did a lot of damage. A chatterbait was crucial at the James River and Kissimmee, as well as that rattling vibe. What else? Oh, a frog. Chesapeake Bay, I weighed in a lot of fish on a frog. Ross Barnett, I weighed in several. And this last one at Rayburn, I definitely weighed in several good fish on a frog. And that's just something I feel like growing up on Chickamauga and fishing Gunnersville a lot too. Not trying to sound like I'm bragging or anything, but I feel like I can throw a frog and know how to make fish eat it. There's everybody throws a frog, but a lot of people don't change up the cadence a whole lot. And I felt like that was crucial. And especially at Sam Rayburn, I was putting a frog in places nobody else was even like thinking to throw a frog. I was targeting little patches of scum, and I don't think anybody else figured it out because there's no frog trails on any of it. And you'd have an expansive amount of grass, but there'd be little casts inside that grass that I feel like just years of experience frog fishing kind of taught me that, hey, this is kind of what to look for. And it's not nothing anybody else can figure out. It's just maybe they don't have the same experience fishing on grass lakes. So a frog was definitely key this year as well.
So I want to hit on this rattling vibe again really fast because one, it intrigues me, but two, I feel like a lipless crankbait is one that is very popular. But I feel like a lot of people, I think it's one of those baits that are still left to be untapped in terms of like we saw the jerkbait explode because of forward-facing sonar, where I think there's a lot of sneaky ways to be fishing a lipless crankbait. Everyone attributes it to that early spring bite, and then usually people put it away. Whereas there's times, I'm sure you can speak to it, where it's good throughout the entirety of the year. But how versatile is that lipless crankbait, that rattling vibe? And maybe kind of like, you don't have to give all the juice up, but maybe is there kind of a nugget that maybe some people don't realize with some lipless crankbaits even throughout the summer months?
Yeah. So no, it's probably the most versatile hard bait on the market, I'd say, just because it comes in a 3/8, a 5/8, and a 3/4 ounce size. So you can kind of cover all the water columns with that. And then, yeah, it's not just a springtime bait by no means. I've caught them really good in the summer, especially in like places like Florida. It's a great bait in Florida in the summertime. And then even this time of year, the fish are getting on that small bait again, and that's when I take that 3/8 and really do some damage with it, just fishing it around submerged grass. And what makes the rattling vibe so unique compared to, any other brand lipless crankbait is the fall. And that bait has such a unique shimmy when it falls. And that's why I personally think it gets bit better than any other brand. So I love to rip a rattle trap. I yo-yo it, I rip it up, reel down, rip it up, reel down. It just, it looks like a fleeing bay fish or a fleeing crawfish. And the rattling vibe is so unique with, when you jerk it up, it's going to run straight up and it's going to fall straight. So many liftless crankbaits kind of fall to the side and they don't fall really good. And just as far as, any sneaky little deals or whatever, the biggest thing I do is in the springtime, I rip it hard. And a lot of people probably just straight reel a rattle trap, and I will some. But when throwing that rattling vibe, I really jerk it up hard and fall it down. Almost every bite will come on the fall. And other things, when it's super, super cold, that's something a whole lot of people don't do, but that's like one of my favorite baits in the world. So I'm going to throw it even when it is super, super cold. And a lot of people are throwing a jerk bait in an A-rig, but it is a great bait to drag like a jig. I throw it on shell bars and stuff in the wintertime and just kind of drag it and count every shell. Me and Caleb Bell have had a few epic days on Chickamauga doing that, where you really had to count every single rock and every single shell. And that's something not a whole lot of people do.
Yeah. Oh, man. I've heard stories of these days. And he's kind of unlocked a little bit of it with us on the show in terms of like the knocking slack in your line and letting it just flop side to side. Got a little juicy tidbit too. That's such an intriguing thing because, like, I think for most folks, unless you really try it and really put effort behind doing that, like, you don't think that you can throw, because you think the first thing that pops in your head when it feels like this foreign concept is because it has treble hooks, and you're like, what do you mean drag it? Like, that's probably such a scary thing for folks. But if you got clean bottom, what's hurting it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. There's times the fish, that they want to feed down, and it definitely, we've had a few really, really good days, even on like shell and stuff. It'll dull up your hooks, but you got to do whatever you got to do to make the fish react, and just something about that sound of that rattle banging against rocks or shell or whatever, that they can't stand it. And so it's a versatile bait. There's a lot of ways to fish it. Another thing we do in the spring, once you start getting a few warm days, we'll put the big 3/4 ounce on, and that allows you to reel it as fast as you possibly can. Plus, you got the big profile. That's something that can be good. And then you take that small 3/8 ounce rattling vibe, and you can go behind people who've been throwing a 1/2 ounce or a 5/8 all spring, and they just get so accustomed to seeing that one size, and you can downsize a little bit. And I guide here in Chickamauga too, and man, so many of my clients caught like some 7 and 8 pounders this summer throwing that small little rattler vibe, and it's scary because you got the little hooks, but it'll get bites when nothing else will that time of year.
Yeah, it's as scary as throwing a spy bait out a spinning rod.
Yeah, just about.
Well, talk to us about setup for that. Like, one setup just for throwing like those bigger traps, but like, do you change it at all too? Like for that smaller one?
I don't, but I use a pretty cool rod for it. It's Witch Doctor Tackle. It's a company out of Florida. He makes some really, really high quality rods, and he makes one rod. It's half graphite and half glass. So you get the strength of the graphite, but you get the tip of the glass. So it's like a perfect lipless crankbait rod. And so you can have that strength to rip it out of grass, but that glass is going to allow you to really fight the fish. So I usually as far as that 3/8 and a 5/8 go, I keep it on that rod. It's a 7.2 medium heavy, and if I go up to the 3/4, I might go to a little stiffer rod, maybe like a 7.4 heavy. It's the same Witch Doctor Tackle series rod, but most of the time I'm throwing that 7.2 medium heavy, half glass, half graphite.
This is like so I've heard this trend. I'm sure you've heard about it because it's not too far from you, but like it's kind of stemming, I think, from Alabama with this like 7-Eleven trend with throwing rattle traps, where people are throwing like these super long, heavy crankbait rods for traps. It's one a buddy of mine, Joseph Webster, has kind of showed me a little bit. He's throwing like a 7-Eleven medium heavy for traps, and they throw like braid on them. I can't remember the guy's name, but he did a really cool Bass University show talking about like using really almost like flipping sticks for a rattle trap. I thought that was super intriguing. I only ask because it's the setup deal is one thing that's really intriguing for Andy and I on not just flipless crankbase, but any sort of technique to see how people differ. But that is one that like surprised me and one that has me really intrigued to try that flipping stick trend. This giant rod for rattle traps. I don't know why it's just rattle traps that people are doing this with. It's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anybody doing that yet. I don't think, but maybe if you're fishing extremely thick grass, but at the same time, I haven't. I mean, I'm pretty used to fishing that. And that rod works for me. That setup does. So I don't know. Yeah, I haven't really heard of anybody doing that yet. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, your setup, that's where my brain goes, exactly what you were talking about. I'll have to find the episode and send it to you. And that way you can, I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
So looking back on this open season, was there like, and I'm going to ask you two different sides of this question, but like, was there a very low moment? I mean, maybe it was Cherokee when you had that set after you're kind of like going off a high doing well at Kissimmee, but like, was there a really low moment where it was kind of like a learning lesson, like something where you it gave you a lot of reflection where like maybe that Cherokee event, it was good that you didn't do as well because it kind of like set you back on path to where how you need to be for the rest of the season? Like, was there a moment like that this past year?
Yeah, it was definitely that Cherokee event, and I would say even like the second day, specifically. The first day I had a limit and I was doing decent. The second day I had a super long day to fish. I was like last flight, and man, I had like 2 fish left with 5 minutes to go, and man, I was just so devastated. And because the people were catching them really good in that event, and I was like, man, I've tried everything that should work. I fished the best stuff on this lake. And then with 5 minutes left, I was like, well, what's the ugliest thing I can fish down here? And I looked up and there was this one really ugly bank. And I pulled over there and caught my 3rd keeper, and I only weighed 3. But it just, I think it kind of made me realize, like, don't let preconceived notions kind of get in the way of what you should be doing. And maybe I did a little bit too much in that tournament. And I think after that event, just, having such a bad event, and I mean, it was honestly a little bit embarrassing because a lot of people expected me to do good in that one. I think it just really lit a fire under me, and I was honestly pretty mad after that one. I mean, I was ready to go, catch him at the next event, and I'll definitely say that was the turning point of the season.
That it's so intriguing how that happens. I feel like there's this mental gap and you see it happen. And Lee Livesey actually talked about this as well when his second time winning on Fork is like, if it weren't for the hometown pressure that like people expect you to do well at something, you would have been just fine at that event. You would have kept an open mind. But I think the fact that you're at the back of your mind is like, dang, what are they going to say when, it's my home turf and I'm not performing well? And that like, it like almost puts a mental blockage on your brain. But, it's a super intriguing mental aspect to me. But when you talked about, you just said, I'm going to find the ugliest looking bank. What do you mean by that?
Well, the one I picked, it didn't have so Cherokee's full of rock. There's flat rock. You got big boulder rock, big chunk rock, rock that's a couple different colors. You got red clay banks. There was one bank close to weigh in. It was just this brown, ugly mud bank with nothing on it. I mean, not a stump, no reason the fish should be there. So I said, I've tried everything else that made sense this week, so I'm just going to pull over there. And first cast with a kayak on it, I catch a 3-pound smallmouth. I'm like, I guess that's why everybody's caught them this week. They just didn't know nothing, just went fishing and probably caught, 15 pounds. It seemed like the first day they were giving out 15-pound bags to everybody except me and a couple of my buddies. So it was definitely a humbling event.
That's awesome. Well, beyond obviously qualifying for the elites at Rayburn, was there another high to your season where it was kind of like, hey, I might be, I know you mentioned at Kissimmee, you're like, I might have a shot at this thing if I'm coming out of Florida with a great finish. But like beyond that, I mean, was there another point in your season that was maybe defining or something that you learned that impacted the rest of your season, something along those lines?
Yeah, there's probably 2 events I would say that really did that for me. The first one was Ross Barnett, where I came in 4th. The top 10 at Kissimmee was awesome, but I almost feel like I kind of lucked into it. and had some good fortune go my way. But the Ross Barnett tournament, I made a decision halfway through the second day that the fish had moved. Everybody was catching them on the edge of the lily pads, and nobody was catching them around me anymore, including me. I was like, I bet these fish have moved up to spawn. And I just kind of eased in there, and I dead sticked a frog. I mean, I twitch a frog and let it sit for like a minute, and they'd come up and get it. And it was a tournament where I felt like I made really good decisions from the start of it to the finish. And, I felt like I fished as good as I possibly could have. Didn't hardly lose any fish, made great decisions. And that was just really it just feels good, when you feel like you've done all you can do in a tournament. Now, I didn't win it, but, I was extremely happy with that fourth place finish. And then the second one, I'll say that was kind of a turning point as a high was the Chesapeake Bay tournament. So I've historically always been really, really good at bringing in like a giant bag on day one and then just kind of struggling through the rest of the tournament. But my day one bags always kind of carried me. I've never been good at day twos. But at Chesapeake Bay, I only had 6 pounds or 7 pounds the first day. And then the second day I had almost 14 and ended up having a really good tournament. And that just kind of, I felt like that was a very, very big mental victory just because like, hey, I took what I learned on day one. I learned from it, mixed in a couple of different things. And then if you look at my 3 tournaments after that, the Red River, I had a better day too. Hartwell, I had a better day too. And then Sam Rayburn, I had a better day too. And I felt like that was the number one thing lacking in my tournament game was learning from day one and adjusting and having a better day too. So that was not just, as an open eye, but just overall in my fishing career, that was, very, confidence building for me.
Yeah. I mean, a Chesapeake Bay tournament, I think just catching 5 fish was a mental victory for a lot of people.
No, that was a grinder. That first day I had 6 bites and I landed 3 of them. And then the second day I had 6 bites and landed 6 of them. So it was one of them deals that, if I'd have fished a little bit cleaner, I would have made the top 10, but I was still extremely thankful for that 20th place finish.
Yeah. I mean, you're qualified now, so you'll take it. You're happy with the season.
Absolutely, man. I was thrilled with it. Heck
yeah. Well, Andy, do you have anything left for Cole before we hit him with the last question?
Oh, I just want to say thanks for coming on. It's kind of cool to see how many anglers actually come out to Tennessee, and the backstory of Alaska is even better. But it's like you're in this corridor of like bass fishing hot zone, right? Tennessee, North Carolina, Alabama, that whole L that it makes there. So I want to say congrats, first of all, and good luck next year. We will be watching and cheering you on because mutual friend here and Caleb Bell as well. And we're glad he's doing better, first of all. And then, I think Bailey can hit you with the next question. And also, Smallmouth, I hope you have some fun with them up here up north.
I'm
because
sure
there's 3 of them. Yeah,
three
Smalley tournaments. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait for those. I'm jealous of y'all who get it. Y'all were complaining about catching 5.5 pound smallmouth at the start of this, and I was like, y'all need to shut up because
he makes a great point, Andy.
He does. Like, I just wanted 1 6-pounder. I would have been thrilled with 1 6, but I got 4 more days coming up that we're gonna get one in the boat. So
yeah, I'm jealous of it. That sounds like a blast.
Okay, I will tell you one thing that's actually really obnoxious about it though. So last year is the first year I ever caught a smallmouth over 6 pounds because my PB was 5 pounds, 14 ounces. And guess how many times I tied that before I finally crossed over to 6?
10.
It was close, 9. I tied it 9 times and I couldn't touch it. The last like 3 5-14s, I was mad to catch. I wasn't happy. I was just like, screw this. I don't even want to see the scale anymore.
I think my favorite one that you caught was on my boat in August when you caught that 5.88, and I was like, another 5.14 for you, bud.
Yeah. Sorry, we shouldn't be complaining. At the end of the day, we are very spoiled to be fishing the Great Lakes and having the great, this amazing fishery in our backyard that we do. So I will shut up. You are correct. I need to keep my mouth shut because I am spoiled.
Yeah. I'm still gonna complain because I'm out there like every day I can be. So
killing me. All right. Cool. You can see we go on tangents on the show. Our last question for you is when we ask for everybody that's new to the show. We don't give you any prep for it because it's fun to kind of just put you on the spot and be spontaneous with this question. I promise it's nothing bad. And it is, if you could sit down and have a steak and a beer with 3 different individuals, they could be from the fishing industry. They don't have to be, though. They could be sports. They could be whatever. They could be alive 1,000 years ago or alive today. That doesn't matter either. Any 3 individuals that you would love to sit down, have a steak, have a beer, and pick their brain, who would you invite?
I'd probably go with some of the top young guys right now. I think Brandon Polnick would be one of them. He'd be an interesting one. I'd say Aaron Martins would definitely be one too. I got to talk to him one time briefly at at this high school combine deal, and he was an interesting character. Like, he was kind of all over the place, and I'd be very interested to kind of see how his mind worked. And then you got to put KVD in there. I feel like, someone who's had a career like that, and I feel like he could give me a lot of advice going forward into this career. Someone who's had that much success. So that'd probably be my 3.
That's a pretty powerful trio of fishing folk, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, dude, seriously, thank you so much for taking taking the time out tonight to come on and talk with us, talk with our viewers.
And dealing with our madness.
I was going to say, and too, dealing with our madness today of all over the dang place. So thank you for sticking in there and being on the show with us. Guys, if you have not already, our show, we like to plug all the social medias of the guests that we have on. I highly encourage you guys to go support Cole. Go check out all of his social medias. They'll be plugged down below for you guys. And then Cole, anything coming up for this year, whether anything media-wise or something that folks should check out to support you for this coming Elite Series season?
Yeah, just follow me on social media. Instagram, Facebook would be great. And then YouTube, Cole Sands Fishing. I haven't done a ton of content in the last couple of months just because I've been grinding like crazy trying to make it. But I have a lot of content built up from my last couple of tournaments. So hopefully I'll be able to drop my Hartwell tournament and my Sam Rayburn tournament. Y'all can kind of see that moment when I made it. And I don't know how great it's going to be because, it's pretty focused on fishing. But, yeah, if y'all could check that out, that would be awesome.
Heck yeah. We will drop that down in the description as well. I'll add that YouTube link right now. Actually, didn't realize you had YouTube. So I'm going to go 1, subscribe and watch some videos, but 2, drop that link in the description so people can go check that out. But, dude, looking forward to watching you on the Elite Series this year. I'm excited to see how you do. I know our boy Caleb's going to be rooting for you. We'll have to get together with him and go watch an event, go see you out there. But seriously, kick some butt. We'll be rooting for you. I know this is going to be the last time we get you on the show. We'll hopefully get you on real soon. But again, we appreciate it, man, and we'll talk to you.
Yeah, good luck.
That was great, guys. Thank y'all for having me on.
Have a good night.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. I'm excited, dude. It gives me – so you mentioned growing up with Jacob Fouts. We've heard endless reviews from our buddy Caleb, who is a great source of judgment. We know Caleb's a dang stick himself. So I got high hopes for him this year, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, are we looking at potential Bassmaster Rookie of the Year right now?
I don't even know how to talk about Rookie of the Year because that Rookie of the Year lineup is insane.
Well, honestly, I think the lineup might be kind of smaller than what you're thinking because I think Sukup's out because he's made enough money, I believe, to be out of the
lineup. Yeah, because of MPFL and stuff, right? Yeah.
I think actually I don't know. Does MPFL count though? Because I thought it was just Bass and FLW. That's actually a great question. This will make it so when we talk about next year's schedule, this will be a great conversation. Holman, I don't think counts.
Holman won't count, no, because I'm pretty sure he's actually won a tour level, like a Bass event.
And I believe Joyce Fuentes has won a few events, if not done well at top 5. I'd be curious to see who's actually a rookie this year.
Yeah.
it's kind of almost like a Josh Douglas discussion from last year. Like, is he actually a rookie? No.
Hallman, I don't think qualifies as a rookie because he's already fished 2 years on the Elite Series. I think he doesn't qualify, period. So, yeah.
That'd be interesting to discuss. Like David Gaston's from MPFL, and I believe he won. I think he won an event. I can't remember if he won or not, but he's a dang stick. He made it this year. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who is technically a rookie, but all I know is there's some damn hammers coming in as rookie of the years. I don't see a weak link whatsoever. I don't anticipate any of these guys struggling next year. I think the boys that are on the elites right now are looking at this, quote unquote rookie class coming in and being like, oh God, like more guys we got to worry about. So I think it's going to be super cool to kind of watch. It's also super cool to watch different personalities that we can follow throughout the Opens that qualify for the Elite Series and then seeing them do well once they get there. You're watching the Elite Series become more and more and more like, not that it's not competitive now, but it's more like you get the feeling of when you see these people joining the Elites, you're like, how do you win AOI? Like
how do you get better every year?
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. Yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. And they're going to some insane big fish lakes again, besides the Sabine River, but money talks. And I kind of like watching those grinder events because whoever catches like a 4 to 6 pounder like can catapult your tournament. And those ones are kind of fun to me. I like grinder events. I like small fish and grinder events. What can I say?
So. Yeah, it's always an interesting one where it's like from a business standpoint, it's like, do we stay? Or it's like, do we try to have, these tournaments that are slugfest that some people enjoy? But then you got the crew like ourselves that love the grinders to see these guys work when it's not going their way. Yeah. That's my favorite time. Like when they're trying to piece the puzzle together and they're like, this sucks right now. How do I catch him? Like that's the stuff where I think you learn the most from, not the guy it's great for TV when a guy's wailing on him every single cast, but like, you don't learn as much. But.
Yeah. Or contemplating like a 3-hour run for no reason. Like just stuff like that. It's like, whoa, I would never do that. Yeah. So
well, Andy, that was a really fun show.
I agree.
I'd love to get Cole back on here to dive into some more, very technique specific stuff because as he mentioned, he seems very versatile and obviously that his track record so far has shown it. I think it'll be cool to see how he does next year, especially with the northern swings.
Yeah.
Really cool show. Excited to get Cole back on here. Excited to watch him next year. Again, guys, make sure you go follow him on social media. But as always, appreciate you guys joining in. If you're listening on MP3, please give us a rating and review. And if you're watching on YouTube, as always, please subscribe. Give this thing a thumbs up. Appreciate you guys joining, and we will see you on Friday's episode with Mr. Drew Gregory. Peace.